How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer here. Wrestling Observer Radio, August 7, 2018. Figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. Lots to get into here today. We'll get into Raw in a bit, but a couple of news notes first, including the announcement earlier today that All In is now looking to be a 5-hour show. The first hour is going to be airing exclusively live on WGN America. 2 matches, the Briscoes versus Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky, at a 15-participant over-budget battle royal with Moose, Rocky Romero, Colt Cabana, Jordan Grace, Ethan Page as the first 5 wrestlers announced. Main card will start at 7 Eastern. We'll be airing live on pay-per-view, Fight TV, and Honor Club. And the Fight TV price listed as $39.99. That is the latest update on the show. We got a match for Stephen Amell. He's facing Christopher Daniels. Most of the rest of the card has already been announced. A few more matches still to come. Dave, thoughts on all of this?
Well, I mean, nothing's too much of a surprise. It's the WGN thing. Is obviously the most interesting part of it because it opens up a lot of doors. If this does a big rating or even a substantial rating, you've already opened the door to a company that, it's a significant cable station that has spent money on wrestling in the past. It spent money on WWE, and then it ended up canceling the show that it had. I think it was Main Event, right? That was on WGN America for a couple of years.
I don't even remember what show it was.
Yeah, I think it was Main Event. But because I think it was created for WGN. Wait,
Superstars? Maybe it was Superstars.
May have been Superstars. I don't remember. I just remember there was a show on WGN that was on for a couple of years. It was one of those things where they started off with like big matches.
Yeah,
and then,
WWE Superstars.
Yeah, and then it kind of faded into being a C show real quick, and then it faded away, and the ratings dropped as always. Whenever Vince gets a new toy, he gets all excited, and then kind of loses interest, type of thing. And then, yeah. But the thing is what does that? I mean, it becomes an interesting thing because then what do these guys do if WGN thinks that they can draw ratings with wrestling? It could be it's not a game changer for the business, but it's just an interesting thing. And I don't know, there's no way of knowing what kind of ratings this can draw because it's not a regular show. They don't have a regular show to promote it, really. They can promote it on social media. The date it's a big show for hardcore wrestling fans, but ratings are a very different animal than what hardcore fans. Hardcore stuff isn't really usually the stuff that gets the strongest ratings. It's the stuff that has that insider appeal, which especially this, where you're kind of catering to a very enthusiastic and audience that's willing to travel, obviously. But the numbers of them, it's not like it's the big masses in theory. But yeah, it's interesting though, because it, again, there is potential there because if there wasn't, they wouldn't be on in the first place. If nobody's giving them an hour just for fun. And if it's successful there, then, it's perhaps, I don't know what again, I don't know what it means. Well, no one knows what it means because no one's going to know until the number comes out. But that's the most interesting part of it. I mean, we knew that was going to be some sort of internet pay-per-view for sure. Obviously, regular pay-per-view has been bandied about. It's pretty much it, really. The card is, 5-hour show. So it's going to end at, it's 6 to 11 Eastern, which means it's 5 to 10 local time. So there you go.
6 to 11 Eastern is 5 to 10 local time?
Yeah, because they're Central Time Zone.
I see.
Yeah.
So the G1 tomorrow is the next show. Late tonight, early tomorrow. What's the lineup?
Hold on, I don't even have that in front of me.
Who's going to risk killing themselves tomorrow is the better question.
Well, it's okay. So the big one. Well, it's the end of the B block. So I mean, the key. There's okay. So the matches are it's Ishii and Juice Robinson, which is just a match they're both out of it. Goto and Zack Sabre, which will probably be a really good match. Ishii and Juice Robinson will be really good. Ibushi and Tama Tonga will be like who knows, but Ibushi needs to win that basically to stay alive. Omega and Toru Yano. So if Omega beats Toru Yano, then Naito is eliminated. If Toru Yano wins, then Naito is still alive. And then Naito has to beat Sonata, which is going to be the main event. Naito Sonata, first time ever. Because they're put in the main event, I don't think they're going to do... Like, sometimes when you have the stablemates wrestle each other, you do a lot of comedy and stuff, where they... that type of thing. Since they're being put in the main event, I don't think we're going to see that. And so I think we're going to see a real viable Naito-Sonata match, which, given the kind of matches that those two guys have had in this tournament with other people, that could be really good. Omega and Yano is going to be, there's probably have to be some seriousness to it, but there's also, because it's Yano, got to be some comedy involved as well.
But if Omega and Yano draw...
They're not doing a 30-minute match. That I'm sure of.
You're sure?
Yes, I'm sure that Omega and Yano aren't doing 30 minutes.
All right.
If it's a draw, I think Naito's eliminated at that point.
So he's eliminated whether it's a draw or whether Omega wins.
I believe so.
Okay. Well, there's no draw then.
Yeah. Omega has to lose to keep Naito alive. And then, let me think about this. If Ibushi wins and Naito wins, then let me think about this. Does Ibushi and Omega loses, then if Omega and Ibushi draw on the final night, and then Naito wins, I think then Naito can advance. But if Ibushi wins, Ibushi would advance. And if Omega wins, Omega would advance because Omega and Ibushi both beat Naito. So it's really slim, but the idea of three guys being alive and Omega and Ibushi doing a 30-minute draw, that's not unbelievable. So I do think it's possible. But Omega would have to lose to Yano for this to be possible. I think that the key is that because Naito and Sonata are in the main event position, that if Omega beats Yano, it then, which would be right before, it makes the Naito-Sonata match, probably a really good match. It becomes, pointless. So that would indicate Omega losing to Yano. But, Omega losing to Yano, I mean, you can do it, but, I don't know. That's, I guess you could, it depends on what, because if Omega beats Yano, you still have the idea where Omega and Ibushi are going at it and the winner advances and Naito's just out of it. And that's not a bad thing going in the last night. That's been done before where you only have two guys, that are running away with it. And that, but the only reason I think that is that with that Naito match coming up after, that maybe you do keep him alive and have Omega lose that match. So that's the situation there. So the interesting thing is that they have sold out Budokan Hall for two of the three shows. The Tanahashi Okada match is not sold out, but the Omega Ibushi is sold out, which is the first time ever that anyone has ever sold out Budokan Hall 2 straight nights in the history of pro wrestling, as far as I know. So that becomes such historic. I think everybody probably figured that the G1 finals were going to sell out Budokan. I don't think that that's a surprise, But the idea that something other than the finals would sell out, I think that is a surprise, and that is pretty impressive. So that says something for Omega and Ibushi, how anticipated that match is. So, yeah, that's that's going to be a crazy match. I don't know what's going to go on with them because
I'm worried someone's going to kill themselves.
Yeah, this one I would be worried about. I would be worried about this one because you got two guys who are
we had Kenny Omega and Ishii nearly kill each other, and then we had Naito and Ibushi really almost kill each other. So if we have Ibushi, are you kidding me? They got dropped on their head like 10 times in that match.
I only remember one that scared me, which was the German suplex.
Oh my God! They had a pile driver straight down on the head. That was one of the scariest matches I ever saw in my life. I'm not kidding.
Oh, I've seen way scarier stuff, like some of those TLC matches that were done with the Edge and Christian and the Hardys and the Dudleys.
Talking about the same Ibushi Naito match here,
and some of the hardcore. I've seen some insane independent matches. This was a great. There were scary spots in the match, but I was more scared for sure with the Ishii and Naito. I mean Ishii and Ibushi match. That match scared me. That match where it was like, this is too much. You're hitting each other too hard in unsafe places. I've seen the matches with ram headbutts which are way more unsafe than that. The Okada and Shibata match. Yeah, those matches like scared me. There were spots in these matches that were bad. But the Omega match, the only thing that bothered me, or I guess made me squeamish, was all the blood in Omega's mouth. But the fact that
your clothesline right in the face at the end.
Yeah, but at the same time, guys, it was a split lip. It was a split lip, but which is bad. But that's a split lip. You know what I mean? It's like that. Those kind of injuries happen in wrestling. They do go to extremes. I mean, I'm not trying to tone that down. They do go to extremes, and I've been worried this whole tournament because everyone is trying to have the best matches possible, and it is out of control, and it is very risky. But I would not say I have seen matches that scare me a whole lot more than these matches do. Omega and the Omega match didn't scare me too much. I mean, the German did. The German was
that German was just as bad as what happened to Takahashi. He landed right on his head, only his head.
Yeah, I know.
His body went one way, and then it couldn't go any further because his neck got in the way, and so then started going the other way.
But Naito did that. Naito did a similar bump in that tag match, which is not defending it because I couldn't believe that bump either. Yeah, Naito's risking Naito. Naito is doing this on his own. I mean, there is a big difference in the sense in the Takahashi match. That was a botch spot, and Takahashi didn't know it was coming, and it was, and he could, you know what I mean? Whereas Naito was he knew it was coming, and whatever it is, and I'm not saying it's good, but it's not as dangerous when the move was exactly what they wanted the move to be. That doesn't make it right, but it's a lot better when you know it's coming than when you are just thrown and you land right on your head.
It's slightly better when you know it's coming, but if you're being dropped on your head, even if Takahashi knew he was going to land like that on his head, he still would have broken his neck. If he would have known that he was going to be thrown onto his head,
I suppose.
Whether he knew it or not, he landed on his head like that, he would have broken his neck. Being cognizant that he was going to land on his head wasn't going to save his neck.
Yeah, but the stuff that these guys did was stuff that, this is stuff that was done in All Japan, which, believe me, is not, again, All Japan made a lot of mistakes.
Someone took a Saito suplex and died.
It wasn't a Saito suplex, but I'm talking about the stuff that they did in the 90s. He took it late. The one he died was wasn't that like a tiger? It was like more of like a tiger driver. But the stuff that like All Japan did with dropping on the heads. I mean, that stuff was as scary, if not more, because they just like the Gonzo bombs and things like that. That stuff was really scary. This, believe me, this stuff is out of control, and did cringe at certain spots, but it wasn't like I was afraid the entire match. Like, and I have seen matches where I go like, these guys are just, and I mean, even, they're far from the most dangerous matches I've ever seen, but that's not a defense of them. They're, but yeah, I am afraid of Omega and Ibushi because they're going to go out there and they're going to try to top the Omega and Ishii match and the Ibushi and Ishii match. They're going to be out there trying to top their previous match from 2012. They're going to be out there trying to top Omega Okada. I think that's, you've got two guys with that goal in mind. And, and the worst part is that one of those guys is going to have to fight. This is going to be on a Saturday night that match takes place this coming Saturday night. And then the winner of that match, most likely, unless, Naito sneaks through and they do a 30-minute draw and all that, the winner of that match is going to be fighting the next afternoon. So, but then they got to rest. Then they get to rest. But yeah, this has been a really scary tournament. But I mean, as far as injuries go, nobody's missed a match yet. No, whether that's good or bad. There, Michael Elgin. I don't know what happened to as far as like I haven't gotten an update as far as his arm goes. I think he was probably getting it checked. He may have tore a bicep. And if you think he may, I mean, when you think you may have, you probably did. And then what else? Well, the other two bad injuries were Omega and Juice, and they came in with the injuries. Omega with a broken heel and Juice with the broken hand, which so as far as like the injuries go, thus far, as of a couple days ago, there were less injuries this year than last year. Last year everybody was hurting, and this year I'm sure they're all hurting, but it hasn't been as bad as last year as far as like the actual injuries go.
All right, what did you think of this Raw show?
The Paul Heyman's thing was great, and aside from that, it was a show. So they're going. There should be like this happy medium in wrestling, because it's almost like I was watching the show going like, these guys are like trying to do long matches with like long nothing. You know what I mean? Like it just do as little as possible. I don't say as little as possible, but long chin locks. I mean, that Baron Corbin match and, it was okay, but it was kind of, the Roman Reigns Baron Corbin match was kind of boring. And then there was another match that was, let me just see which one that was. A lot of them were short.
Oh, the Drew and Ziggler versus Seth had a bunch of. Oh no, there was what was the match with all the hugging?
The Bailey match, maybe?
Nah, there was another one where they just squeezed each other for like an hour.
Well, none of them were long. I mean, the Ronda Rousey match was just mostly stalling. Mojo and Bobby Roode, I think, is the one you're.
Oh yeah. That was it.
Yeah, which the crowd wasn't really into. So yeah, it's a lot of safe wrestling. But like I'm watching, going like, this is safe wrestling. This is cool. But there should be like this happy medium where you at least give people like safe action as opposed to doing like not a lot at all, and doing like long matches where you don't do a lot that are like kind of boring. That's I'm not really into that style either. A lot of talking that I don't know. It was all right. I think that like the Strowman stuff, it's kind of predictable what they're doing. I mean, the special effects thing was where he pushed over the stage. I mean, that was cool. But I mean, the match with Jinder, I mean, it was what it was. They did exactly what it was meant to be. And I mean, the story they're telling is that Braun just keeps losing these fluke matches. But if he loses a fluke match to Kevin Owens like this, then he loses the briefcase. But I get the story they're telling, but it's really not that entertaining to watch them tell that story, because it's just like really, I don't know. I mean, at least they keep the matches short. Ruby Riot's back. Like I said, Paul Heyman was phenomenal. I thought that was just an incredible performance by him. And when I heard that Finn Balor and Baron Corbin are going to be at SummerSlam, it's like that show doesn't need any more matches. Every match that they add from this point on means that we're going to get like these rushed matches, and really, I don't think you really need rushed. Like I don't know, I don't see a purpose for like Finn Balor and Baron Corbin again on. I guess Finn Balor needs to get his win back, so perhaps I guess you could say that, but I don't know. After the match that they've had before, and after seeing Baron Corbin in the match with Roman Reigns, like I don't know, I'm not that excited about seeing Baron Corbin right now in the ring.
When Kurt came out to open up the show, Kurt talked about Ronda Rousey making her in-ring debut tonight. He says, unlike some former UFC champions, Ronda has no problem appearing on Raw. Doesn't whine, doesn't complain. And whether she wins or loses tonight or beats Alexa at SummerSlam, she is going to show up every week. She's a champion in my book. Buries Brock Lesnar. Corbin tells him to watch it, and Kurt says, nope. I have more to say. Lesnar has no class. He says, I'm a man of my word, and so Paul... Because he got Brock down to the ring last week, his job is intact. And he's about to say what he's going to do because of what Brock did to him.
Okay,
Roman interrupts.
I don't understand this, though. If Paul Heyman's job is the manager of Brock Lesnar, but they're not getting along, but his job is intact, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, he's just contractually obligated at WWE. He can go to TNA and manage. He can't go to UFC and manage. Actually, I guess he can. Although he hasn't.
I just don't. I mean, it's like if someone is like supposed to be the manager. I mean, the whole idea that he's under contract to WWE, it's like for that role that he plays, it's like it's ridiculous. He's supposed to be Brock Lesnar's guy. And now,
hey, listen, James Ellsworth got fired from SmackDown. What was his job? Who hired him? He just showed up. He just showed up one day, started like messing with the other girls for Carmella, and then he ends up getting fired. Who hired him?
I guess Paige, if she fired him, right?
I guess
she's the one in charge.
The same situation with him. He was a manager who got fired.
Yeah, that logically doesn't make a lot of sense either, does it?
No. Anyway, Roman Reigns interrupted. He's burying Baron Corbin. They're ranting back and forth at each other, and eventually, long story short, because there was a lot of talking here, Kurt Angle signs the two of them to a match together, and I will say, Roman Reigns got cheered a lot during this segment. They popped big when they announced the match between him and Baron Corbin, so we'll see what happens in New York. Still not confident, but he got cheered a lot on this show. So, Roman Reigns, Baron Corbin, boring. 40% of this match was Corbin having him in chin locks. Went through 2 commercials. Roman makes his comeback. Women are chanting for him. The men aren't shouting him down for once. And finally, Corbin, as Roman is making his comeback...
Yeah, they're not shutting him down because they're bored by the match.
Corbin...
I mean, usually his matches aren't this boring.
Corbin goes to leave. He goes to walk out. And Finn Balor comes out on the ramp. And Corbin is too scared. Even though he beat this guy's ass and pinned him in the middle of the ring last week, this week he's scared. He goes back towards the ring, eats a Superman punch and a spear. He gets pinned.
I was happy. He's got the match over. I was afraid that match was going to go another 5 minutes.
Well, hey, now you have to see this match at SummerSlam, so that's what you get.
Oh, I know.
Finn gave him the dropkick, double foot stomp off the top. They announced that match for SummerSlam. Seth is meeting with Kurt, and he says, I need to take care of both these guys, Ziggler and Drew. What could I do? Kurt says, hey, why don't you find a tag team partner? Seth never thought of that after 7 days. He's very pleased. He'll go look for somebody.
You know what's so weird is so in this segment, out of nowhere, they said it can't be Dean Ambrose because he's out of action with a torn tricep. And I mean, the whole thing is Dean Ambrose is pretty much just about ready to return. So why would you even bring his name up? I mean, shouldn't the whole thing be at some point in like the next month or so? I mean, obviously the guy needs a partner, and Dean Ambrose makes the most sense. And if Dean Ambrose is going to run in, shouldn't they like not mention his name?
You'd think, but that's a swerve.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of another good reason. I mean, it's probably going to be Dean Ambrose. He's pretty much ready to go.
It makes the most sense.
Makes sense. Not going to be Roman. He's busy.
Yeah, could be Jason Jordan, but, who knows what's going to happen there. I mean, he's been ready for, well, not that long, but he's been ready. He's ready now.
And Bobby Roode, Mojo Rawley. This was the other match. Lots of hugging, lots of squeezing. Roode makes his comeback, blockbuster. Mojo cuts him off, goes for his finish. Bobby Roode just turns it into his DDT and wins.
I was really surprised by that finish.
Yeah, all that work they did to Mojo, and he's just a 50-50 guy again.
Well, it's not that, but it's just like Bobby Roode. They haven't done anything with him. And I thought Bobby Roode was on the verge of going heel, and I guess he still could, but if he does, he might as well have lost. Give Mojo, I don't know. I suppose that they could just do a rematch and Mojo can win the rematch and, it just continues the 50-50. But I would have thought that in that situation you would probably have Mojo win the first one. But it doesn't really matter. But I was surprised by though. I was surprised that it was clean too.
Actually, for some reason, in a lot of the feuds they do, the babyface wins the first match and then the heel wins the second. Which... when the babyface wins the first match, I don't know why you would possibly care about a rematch, but that's just the way they do things. Elias came out for his usual deal. He's got a bunch of camera people out there. They're filming a new documentary on him. Every time he starts to play, he commands the crew to film him differently, chastises the audience, buries Jacksonville. Actually got tons of heat for burying Jacksonville. Lashley finally interrupts, and he says that he heard Elias complain about the documentary, but he thought it was a great depiction of who he is. Elias says, it portrayed me as egotistical and out of touch and vain. Lashley said, yes. So, he cuts a promo on him, tells him he's a joke. Actually, first Elias said Lashley's a joke, then Lashley says, your crew's a joke, your guitar's a joke, your bracelets are a joke. When I get my hands on you again, it'll be no joke. Elias goes to leave, tosses a clipboard at Lashley, jumps him. Bobby makes his own comeback, leads him out with a spine buster, big vertical suplex, and lays him out. Is this official for SummerSlam, or is this another nothing match that they're going to add?
It looks like they're going to add it.
That would be number 11 for those of you keeping track.
Yeah, I don't think that they haven't announced the match yet, but it's certainly building towards that.
Tyler Breeze offered to be Seth's partner, and Roman Reigns showed up and just buries poor Tyler. I got this, he says. So he's the partner tonight, at least until later. Razor, Titus O'Neil. Last week, Apollo beat Akam. This week, Razor beat Titus. Short match. Razor booted him, spinebuster pinned him. That was that.
This wasn't much of a match at all.
No. Kevin Owens' show with Jinder Mahal. Whole story is Kevin won't let Jinder say a word. He just rants and raves about Braun Strowman, Jinder. He beat Strowman, Jinder beat Strowman, but he beat him in a bigger match. And finally he says, I got a great idea for tonight. Let's do Jinder versus Braun again. Jinder doesn't like this idea. Kevin says, you beat him last week, you could do it again. Demands Braun come out. And instead, Braun is underneath their stage. And he starts to shake it, tips it over, they all fall off. This leads to Braun versus Jinder, which was like a minute long. Owens tried to steal the briefcase. Braun goes after him. As he grabs the briefcase, he accidentally hits Jinder Mahal. The ref calls for the DQ. The story is that Braun has now lost to Jinder via countout and disqualification. And if either of those happen at SummerSlam, he loses the briefcase.
Yeah.
It's a story. It's not making for exciting television.
It absolutely makes sense, but yeah, it doesn't make for compelling matches at all. But then again, if it's Braun Strowman against Jinder, and they have a way to keep those matches under 2 minutes, we probably shouldn't complain too much.
We had Steph calling Kurt and browbeating him, which set up a segment later. Pre-taped Corey Graves' interview with Roman. They show all of the times that Roman has lost to this guy. He says, yes, I've lost many times, but I also whipped his ass. There was a Seth cash-in. There was a WrestleMania loss clean. There was a Greatest Royal Rumble. He says, technically I lost that match, but I actually won. I should have left as champion. Says Brock doesn't respect anybody. He's sick of him disrespecting his job, the family business. show footage of Lesnar threatening to kick his ass last week after Raw. And he says if he wins at the pay-per-view, he's going to do what Brock doesn't do. Show up every night, earn the right to battle every single person on the roster, set a true standard for this title. And he finishes off by saying, I have to win.
So maybe he's going to win.
Maybe.
He might.
I'll believe it when I see it at this point.
Yeah. I don't believe anything when it comes to Lesnar until after it happens.
Corbin tells Roman that Steph says she cannot jeopardize the SummerSlam main event, so he is forbidden to be Seth's partner here tonight. Roman says, I don't care what she says. Corbin
okay,
says,
so wait. So
Corbin is basically admitting he's no threat to Roman Reigns.
But I mean, so the idea is that, that like she's not even worried at all about Baron Corbin, doing anything to Roman Reigns, but Ziggler and McIntyre, she's worried about.
Yes, in a tag match, by the way.
Yeah.
I guess the story is supposed to be that the real danger is this man's wrestling twice in one night. He's opening himself up for injury.
Okay, sure.
Anyway, Seth then says, I got this, leaves. Roman comes back and says, Corbin, how are your ribs? And he punches him right in the ribs.
I thought that was pretty funny.
It was. Got a big pop for it.
Yeah.
Seth versus Drew and Ziggler. Match was all right. Seth made a comeback, sent Drew outside, hit his big tope on his Ziggler. Big springboard clothesline. Went for the curb stomp. Ziggler avoided it. Drew got a blind tag, laid out Seth with a lariat. Seth made one more comeback, tried a cradle, got broken up. Ziggler super kicks him, pins him in the middle of the ring. So as noted, seems to be setting up the return of Ambrose, even though he's not allowed to use Ambrose, they claim.
Well, they claim that Ambrose isn't ready to return.
Well, they're going to be proven wrong, I suspect here.
Somebody's got to show up. He needs some help.
We had a hilarious Alicia Fox video package trying to push her as a big-time WWE star in the women's division. Hey, they tried. That's the goal.
Yeah, then yeah. I didn't think it was hilarious. I just thought it was like, that's what they should do. To try to make her out to, try to make it out like this is a big-time match. It's the main event on the show. I mean, it may be a stretch. But
that's what was funny about it.
Yeah, well, it was a stretch. I mean, that was, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was hard to buy it when, trying to portray her as like this, legend, type of thing, when she's just kind of been someone who's been around. That's really what she's been for 10 years.
She has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Revival versus B-Team, not much of a match. The lights go out. Matt and Bray replace Axel and Wilder, and this is a disqualification.
Yeah, you're not allowed to eat people up or make them disappear. Magic's illegal.
It's never been illegal in the past. Have you ever seen an Undertaker match, a Kane match?
I guess, I don't know.
Like if you magically transform and replace somebody, should that really be a DQ? It's still 2-on-2.
Yeah, but they weren't in the match. Okay. And they attacked guys in the match. So it's double DQ.
Anyway, they laid everybody out and they announced a three-way, not for SummerSlam, next week on Raw. We will get this three-way.
Good, except it's probably going to build for something in SummerSlam.
Probably right. And then a great segment. Paul Heyman interview with Renee. If I didn't know any better, I would think that Paul Heyman deliberately did not sleep for a full week before doing this interview. He looked like hell. He's practically crying. Looks like he hasn't slept or eaten in weeks.
He didn't look like he hasn't eaten.
Well, maybe not that one.
He did look like he's been worried. And he didn't shave very well, which I'm sure was completely by design.
Yes.
Which was really quite the length to go. I mean, and that's Paul. I mean, I know that's Paul. That's because he's done that in the past where you do that. That's a depth level that wrestling writers very, very rarely go. So, yeah, he did. It was something. It was great.
Says Brock disconnected his phone number.
His delivery was absolutely outstanding. He told a story and kind of built up the match. Left with a lot of intrigue that nobody knows what the story is with him and Brock.
Says Brock doesn't want to take his phone calls. It's a private matter. He doesn't even want to talk about this right now, but they're begging him to talk about this on TV. Says Brock is a friend. He doesn't like anybody close to his family. Brock doesn't either. He can't believe it's ending like this. They always talked about riding off into the sunset together, the WWE Universal title on one shoulder, the UFC title on the other. She wants to know, this is Renee, does Brock still need him? Paul won't answer. She wants to know if he has his eye on another potential client. He says, this question would be inconceivable a week ago. How could I go with somebody else? She wants to know who's going to win, and he says, I have been with Brock on and off for 16 years. I have never seen him like this. I've never seen him more violent. And against this Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns doesn't stand a chance. This was awesome.
Yeah.
They're trying so hard. Of course, they've been doing that for 3 years now. But this was great.
Yeah. We think that Heyman's going to help Roman Reigns win?
Well, I mean, no. Because that would make the most sense for Roman to turn heel and go with Paul Heyman, but I have no faith in Roman winning. I have no faith in Roman going heel. If they do it, it would be awesome. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because almost all the contenders are, the key contenders are pretty much baby faces.
Sasha and Bayley versus the Riot Squad. Sasha makes a big comeback, runs wild on Logan. Bayley hits a top rope Frankensteiner. Sasha hits a meteor off the top. Liv breaks it up. Bayley then tosses Liv outside, goes for a dive. Somebody pulls Liv to safety. It's Ruby Riott returning from her strained MCL. And Sarah then rolls up Sasha for the pin. So Sasha and Bayley already back to losing again. That did not take long.
Well, it's 50-50 booking, and they won last week.
Ronda Rousey video package, and then we had the main event. So, before the match starts, Alicia and Alexa come down to the ring. Charlie's interviewing them. They're doing the classic annoying heel promo, easy heat. Then Alexa starts giving Alicia this pep talk. The fans are dying to see Ronda Rousey at this point, which is what they're supposed to be doing. And they finally hit her music. They go totally nuts. They do the ring entrance. They go, or the announcements. They go nuts. And then the match starts. Alicia tries to slap. Ronda judo throws her. She rolls outside. Alexa keeps jumping up on the apron, so Natty yanks her off. Alexa posts her, so Natty is out. Fox tries to jump Rousey from behind. The ref stops her, which I don't think that's right. And Alexa trips Rousey. Fox gets the heat briefly. And Ronda gets the Ronda Rousey face, just unloads on her with shots, 3 hard judo throws, tosses her into the barricade. Alexa gets on the apron again. Alicia tries a kick, gets caught and thrown. Ronda ragdolls her, armbars her, gets a submission. Crowd goes nuts. Very, very limited selling by Ronda Rousey. There were some smoke and mirrors here. It was a little bit ugly in spots, but it's Ronda Rousey versus Alicia Fox. It's not going to be perfect. It still came off as like a...
It was good.
It was different than any other women's match you're going to see on the main roster.
Yeah, it was short. It was all right. Ronda was, for her level of experience, she did real well. I wouldn't call it a good match. Not as good as her other performances. She desperately needs new ring gear. I mean, those shorts that she wears, like you can tell they just drive her crazy. And I think it's just a bad look, always having to tug on your shorts in the middle of a fight.
Did she wear those same things basically when she fought?
She did once, and then she stopped.
Was she wearing otherwise? I don't even remember.
She was wearing, normal UFC trunks. She wore them once early on, and the same exact thing happened. And she realized that it wasn't a good thing, so she stopped wearing them. So, but I just think she looks like someone who's getting ready to go to the gym and walk on the treadmill. While everybody else looks like a star. It's like I just don't think that the ring gear just, I don't know, the whole
Oh, they were longer. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I see. So it's basically the same deal, just they didn't ride up so much.
Yeah. But I think they should dress her differently, though.
Well, anyway, afterwards, she goes to interview Charlie goes to interview her again. Alexa jumps her, but Ronda throws her all over the place, grabs the mic. Actually, this was a really good promo by Ronda. Vowed to win the title at SummerSlam. And the place goes crazy. And, I mean, listen, they announced Ronda Rousey was going to wrestle for the first time on Raw. They delivered. The fans loved it. And I guess we'll see how the ratings fare tomorrow when they come out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I would expect
a week build, 3 hours during the show promoting it. I mean, if it doesn't do well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. If it doesn't do well, this football season's going to be really ugly.
Well, the football season's going to be ugly either way. You know, that's just the reality of it. But yeah, no, this is the time of the year that they do some of their better numbers. It should do well. You know, the period from now until the second week of September is usually a pretty good period for ratings. You know, whatever the new normal is. But I mean, it shouldn't be bad.
So what's this Sam Adonis story?
So Sam Adonis was at Revolution Pro yesterday, and he did a run-in and a match with Chris Ridgway and Curtis Chapman, and then he started cutting a promo, and he made a homophobic slur, and the crowd got really mad, and then he just thought, hey, I guess this is working, and then he went further, and it wasn't working. It was the wrong kind of heat, and as soon as it was over, Andy Quildan, who's the promoter, you know, just said, like, kind of as a joke, well, now let's get back to 2018 with the idea that he did this promo that was like from another generation. And
it was.
And it was, yeah. And then later in the show, he came out again and said that he had to apologize, that, you know, Revolution Pro is for everyone. And Sam Adonis, I guess, was feeling really bad about everything that went down, made a mistake, and that's pretty much it. He's not going to be back. He was supposed to be booked against both those guys, as a matter of fact, on shows next month, but doesn't look like he's going to be back, because I think the feeling is that the crowd is not going to, you know, they just felt they couldn't bring him back.
Batista's very upset.
Yeah, he's upset about what is it? Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, being fired over a tweet from years back that resurfaced, and he's just furious, almost ready to quit the franchise, which hopefully he doesn't quit, because people would kill for that role, and he got it, and it's a role that, as long as that, you know, they do these movies, and they'll probably do them for a while, that he's, you know, it's a lot of money for him, but he's just really upset. It feels like he needs to stick up for the director who got him in there, and I get that loyalty. But he's talked about quitting. He's talked about giving notice, asking to be released from his contract. But you know, all the stars of that movie, of that series, are pretty much loyal to him. But he's probably not getting hired back either. So I think that, you know, where Batista's real mad is that, you know, he's not defending what he said, okay, and you can't, but he basically, because it was so many years ago, the idea that it came up now, you know, because he thinks the fascists are out to get Gunn, because Gunn was not a supporter, was a very harsh critic of President Trump, and they feel, and I mean, that is the feeling. The feeling is that people who, those were the people who were after him and wanted to shoot a bullet in him, and they succeeded in doing so by, you know, he was opened up for it by the stuff that he had tweeted years ago, but they got him.
So UFC 227, California State Athletic Commission has got a deal where you're supposed to weigh in, and then the next day be within 10% of your weigh-in weight. And all but 6 fighters weighed in above 10%.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, now what? They're going to
know.
recommend they move up? Who cares?
Yeah,
It's so stupid. They're going to recommend that some guys may move up. What does a recommendation even mean? It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
What's the point of this?
Yeah, well, what's the point of cutting weight? I mean, the thing that's so interesting to me is that with the exception of like one fight, most of the guys were within a couple pounds of each other. So essentially what you had is you got guys like your 125 pounders. Okay, they're real 145 pounders. So they're 145 pounders. They're both trying to get the advantage on the other. So they both kill themselves to get to 125. And they fight, and they're about the same size. But they're, they had a miserable week, and they killed themselves, and it's like, it's so pointless. The difference is there was...
well, there were two that were, the Cody Garbrandt, him and TJ were 6 pounds apart. More, 8 pounds.
What Cody and
149, TJ was 149.5, Garbrandt was 142, so that's 8 pounds.
7.5 pounds difference.
And the Thiago Santos was 209.5, and Kevin Holland was 193.
Yeah, well, that fight, they looked, I thought they looked 20 pounds apart, and they were actually 16 and a half.
So does anyone believe that Thiago Santos is going to fight at heavyweight next time because he was 209.5?
Well, he said he's moving to. He said he is moving up to 205. The one that surprised me was that because Cejudo looked so much bigger to me than Johnson, but Johnson actually was 1 pound bigger than Cejudo.
Yep.
Johnson was 142 and Cejudo was only 141. I thought that Cejudo looked like close to 150, but sometimes looks are deceiving. He looked so big in the back and everything. But, pretty much guys were within a couple pounds of each other, so they were fair fights. But, the whole, I don't know, what they're going to do from here as far as it's got, you can't have, one commission can't do any, can't make a difference. You have to have... they drug test these guys all the time, and they should just weigh them when they're drug tested, and that's your weight. You know what I mean? That's your weight. And most of the guys would be fighting the same guys that they're fighting now. They would just not have to weight cut. They would be in their real weight classes, which is 2 weight classes above what, in most cases, what they're fighting at, as ridiculous as that sounds. And, in most cases it's 2. But I'm sure something's going to happen someday. I think it's a race. It's like, do they do something, or does somebody die in the UFC trying to cut weight first? And I don't know what's going to happen first.
Well, let's talk about this Bellator tournament.
So
I don't want to make a depressing prediction.
So what's your prediction? That guys
Someone's
are going to
die
hurt?
first. Are you kidding me?
In the Bellator tournament? No, one's going to die.
In the UFC weigh-in thing we were just talking about.
Oh. It is a subject that is getting a lot of attention. Really a lot. So I do think there's a chance that something may change before somebody dies, but it could go either way. Yeah. When the thing is like, they made the one thing, which was the early weigh-ins, was supposed to be designed to keep this stuff from happening, which obviously that didn't happen. Bellator, 8-man welterweight tournament. I thought it was going to be a 10-man, but the 2 guys are going to be 2 alternates. And they announced Douglas Lima and Andrei Koreshkov in San Jose on September 29th, first tournament match. Paul Daly against Michael Venom Page, which is a fight that's been built up for a long time. I would think they would do that fight in the UK. because that's where both guys are from. Then Ed Ruth, who's a great wrestler, against Neiman Gracie, great BJJ fighter. And then Roy McDonald defends the championship against John Fitch. So that's the first round of the tournament. So in each round of the tournament, the title will be at stake. And, it's a tournament. It's Bellator. Fights, Michael Venom Page and Paul Daly is an interesting fight. I don't know how good it's going to be, but on paper, these first round fights look good. McDonald and Fitch, I don't know if that's going to be that exciting. Probably not. Ruth and Gracie is interesting. That might not be pretty. And as far as I think Rory's got to be, in an 8-man tournament, you never know what's going to happen, but Rory McDonald does have, to me, seems like he would have to be the favorite.
All right, you got some questions you need to answer.
All right. Let's see the stuff here. Ishii in the Hall of Fame. Ishii's chances to go in the Hall of Fame. So, since so many people have brought this up, he is going to be on the ballot, but I don't see him getting the votes. Match quality wise, he probably deserves to be in. I don't think you could even argue that. He's got a style all his own. He's had incredible matches for years now. And not just good matches. These are incredible matches. He's had some of the greatest matches that there's ever been. So that's a positive for him. Most Hall of Fame guys are guys who are like top guys. And Ishii's really been, while he's tasted close to the top, he's never really been, he's not top 4 now. He's never been top 4 at any point in New Japan. So I think it's going to be a struggle for him to get the votes. If you look at it with the idea that the best workers should go in, then he should go in, if that's how you look at it. If the biggest draws who aren't good workers get in, then the best workers should get in. He's absolutely, there's, I know that there's some guys who don't think he's a great worker, but
what?
Yeah.
Who?
Oh, some people think that.
Do you use the mute function on Twitter when you hear that?
No, it's not Twitter people. I know people in the business who think that.
Really?
Oh yeah, because they think that what he does is not good for the pop up from moves isn't good. It makes the moves, it's not as strong when other guys do it since he pops up from them. Some people don't like the way he sells. Actually, I think his selling's fantastic, but he's just intense as hell. He's
when he pops up from moves, it's usually he pops up, he hits his own move, and then he falls down and sells. It's a way to show that he is refusing to show any pain until he has taken down his opponent. It's not no selling a move. It's not acting like the move didn't hurt.
Yeah.
It's like if you I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know. Everyone's had something where they're out and there's people around and they twist their ankle or something. They act like it doesn't hurt. And then of course it is hurting. Same thing. It's very real.
Yeah. I didn't say it's not real. Yeah, it's interesting. As far as work goes, the guy's phenomenal. He said phenomenal matches. This G1, you've got literally most of the best wrestlers in the world are in this tournament. And he's had as good a matches as any, maybe the best of anyone. And you're talking about Omega at his best in this tournament, Ibushi at his best in this tournament. Everyone, really. Tanahashi's at the best he's going to be, and he's been great. Okada is, he's been great. Up and down, everyone. Goto's had a great tournament. Sonata's had a great tournament. But Naito's had a great tournament. But Ishii may have had the best of any of them. So that tells you something. But yeah, I don't... I just don't think he's going to get the votes. That's my belief. Let's see. With all the hype behind Matt Riddle, how come there doesn't seem to be anywhere near the same hype for Tom Lawler? I've been to shows with both guys, and Filthy is just as solid.
He's under UFC contract.
As in his wrestling, but connects better with the fans with his talking ability. I see very few people who connect better with the fans than Matt Riddle. So I don't know. I'm not the right person to make comment on this, but yeah, I mean, Tom's not full-time in this. Riddle is. Riddle's phenomenal. He really is. Riddle's phenomenal. He's going to be, he's going to be a superstar in NXT unless they botch it, and I don't think that they will. Was the ESPN AWA deal actually good or useful for the AWA? Did it help the AWA stay alive? Did they get substantial advertising money or just cable fees? How did it come about? So what happened was, ESPN was very different then than it is now. I mean, ESPN was a struggling network trying to find an audience. So they wanted to get into wrestling because wrestling in the mid-'80s seemed like it was hot. And it was. So they had meetings, and it basically came down. This would have been in 80... God, I think this is 85, 86. But it came down to Mid-South Wrestling in the AWA. And the person in charge chose the AWA because literally they had heard of Sergeant Slaughter. And Sergeant Slaughter at the time was in the AWA. And that was the decision. They hadn't heard of anyone in Mid-South. They probably hadn't heard of anyone in the AWA, but Sergeant Slaughter. So that's how they got it. So they made some money from it, but it wasn't a big amount. But at the end, it was enough money that they were getting paid that Vern kept the thing alive when they weren't drawing and making any money at the gates anymore. But it wasn't so much money that, the end was still the end. It didn't save the company. They still lost, most of their talent. And they still, the aura or whatever, the AWA just dropped greatly. And, but yeah, they were still under contract, but they couldn't pay the bills anymore. So it was, it did help keep them alive at the end for a little while, but the end result was the same either way. So that's that.
All right, this person here says, why did Vince bring Billy Graham back, put him with Morocco, push them, and then job Morocco out to Greg Valentine of all people before letting him go?
I think that because Billy Graham was such a great promo guy, that the feeling was that he couldn't go anymore. They had him under contract, so put him with Morocco. But yeah, the idea then that they didn't push Morocco that hard kind of made it kind of weird, yeah. But the thing didn't work. I mean, Morocco had declined greatly from his heyday, so that didn't help. And Billy, really wasn't a good manager. I mean, he just sometimes, you get guys that are really good promos. John Tolos was another one, where you think that because they're a good promo, they're going to make a great manager, and it makes sense. It makes all the sense, but it doesn't always work out that way. So, they were just trying to do something to, with Billy because they had him under contract and they just they figured he can talk, something's going to work out. They tried to make him a TV announcer and that didn't work out either. So there you go.
This person here says, does Dave know what Carl Anderson's somewhat cryptic tweet was about? Is he going back to Japan?
I didn't see the tweet.
What did he say? Either, and I'm going to have to find out. Well, let's find out.
The only stuff I see is he's always showing off his abs.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't even know which one they're talking about. Official statement regarding an important matter coming soon. I guess we'll, I don't know what they're talking about.
Okay. I don't either.
I'll keep looking here as I read another question. After reading the Gordy bio in the latest back issue and didn't recall the tale of him refusing a job to Hogan. He had that much clout at the time. That's amazing. Can you go into that in a little more detail?
Yeah. So here's what. They did the All Japan, New Japan, and WWF at the time. All came together to do a big show at the Tokyo Dome in 19. I'm trying to remember the year. What year was the New Japan Summit? 90. I think it's 1990. I think it's April 13th, 1990, maybe. Because it was right after WrestleMania that year. And there were all kinds of problems. You can imagine. There's no way that Baba and Vince could ever do a show together. I mean, they did. They did one. They never did another one because it's just, the egos are just too big. They both thought that they were, they were the geniuses, and they had very different philosophies on wrestling, and, just too many problems. But anyway, one of the things was when WWF came in, they basically said that we don't care what happens to any of our guys except Hulk Hogan's got to win, Ultimate Warrior's got to win. Everything else, you can do what you want. Book your guys to beat him, whatever. But Hulk Hogan has to win, Ultimate Warrior has to win. Now, to protect Ultimate Warrior, because they didn't want to put Ultimate Warrior against Japanese guy, WWF booked the Ultimate Warrior against Ted DiBiase, who's their own guy. So there's going to be no issue. He's going to lose, and Ted DiBiase is going to carry Ultimate Warrior as good as anyone can carry him at that time. So that was what happened there. So in the other match, it was Hulk Hogan against Terry Gordy, and Terry Gordy was, he wasn't the top guy in All Japan. Stan Hansen was, foreigner. Stan Hansen was the top foreigner, but he was right underneath him, and real strong at the time. And Terry Gordy was just like, he's Hulk Hogan, and he's only coming once a year. This is where I work 25, 30 weeks a year. This is where I make my living. I shouldn't be losing to this guy. That was his, and Terry Gordy's never been a guy who was afraid to do jobs, but in this situation, he just figured that he wasn't going to do it. So everybody freaked out. Baba freaked out because it was like they couldn't do a draw, and and Hulk Hogan had to win. That was part of the deal. He had to win. Baba was fine with Terry Gordy losing. They wanted a big name. They thought that was a big main event that would help. It's a unique match that you never see anywhere else, things like that. So it ended up with Terry Gordy was replaced on the show with Stan Hansen, and Stan did the job for Hogan, and it actually led to Stan actually came out of it pretty well because the fans kind of saw it as well. Stan was, Stan's the top guy, and it made no sense in their mind for Stan Hansen to lose to Hulk Hogan because in Japan, Stan Hansen was the bigger star of the two, significantly bigger. So they thought that, I went to Japan right after this. It was maybe a month or so, maybe, I don't remember how many weeks, but it had just happened. And I remember I was at Korakuen Hall and the fans were talking, and it was like Stan was super over as a babyface after the loss to Hulk Hogan. And he always was over, but this was a different level. And when I was asking, what's the deal with Stan? And it's like, well, they all saw that in their mind, Stan Hansen never should have lost to Hulk Hogan, but he did. And the feeling was that, he went and saved the show. The show was going to fall apart without Hulk Hogan. They needed a big star for Hulk Hogan to beat because WWE insisted that Hulk Hogan win his match. And Stan volunteered and lost. So it was kind of like Stan was super professional and they cheered him for it. So that's kind of what happened there.
And this person here says, I'm curious about the current situation regarding ICW content going on the WWE network. I remember there being quite a bit of rumor and rumblings about this a while back and would love to have some sort of answer. For my money, he says, ICW has been the best we've got in the UK and would think they'd be dying to get their content seen by the world.
This is Vince. Vince is, one day Vince wants footage from other territories on, and other days he wants no footage other than WWE on. So he waffles back and forth, and they've talked, and they, them and Progress have both supplied them with the tapes, and they both have deals, and WWE hasn't exercised its end of the deals yet. That's all. So I don't know if they'll ever have one or not. They may. Maybe this, stuff coming up is kind of like a way of testing those waters as well.
And finally, this person says, has WWE stated what the network release schedule will be for the Mae Young Classic? Will it be 2 big blocks like last time, or weekly leading up to Evolution?
I think it's going to be similar to last time, but I don't know exactly how it's going to work.
I think last time the way that they did it actually worked out fairly well. And I thought it wouldn't, because I thought the weekly schedule would be better. So I think after that they said they were going to do it that way, but I don't know how they're going to do it this year. So we shall see. The new back issue of The Observer Dave's talking about is on the front page right now if you want to check that out. Got a lot of shows from the past weekend and many more to come. New issue of The Observer out on Wednesday. And that is it. We will talk to you again after a while.